I need to get something off my chest that's been eating at me for months. A lot of you are going to feel this. I'm 24. I make $125,000 as a software engineer in New York City. And before you click away thinking, here we go, another privileged tech bro humble brag, hear me out. Because what I'm about to say might make you realize just how broken things really are. I spent years working minimum wage and retail jobs to pay my way through community college and university. I graduated with zero debt. I did everything right. Studied computer science, learned to code, got the good job. On paper, I won. Guidance counselors would put me on a poster, but here's the part nobody says out loud. My take home after taxes is $79,000 a year, and my girlfriend, she graduated into one of the worst job markets for new grads in decades. Tech layoffs everywhere, hiring freezes, entry-level roles replaced by AI or shipped overseas. She's grinding, hundreds of applications, endless resume edits, and a lot of silence in return. So I'm basically carrying both of us on that $79,000 in one of the most expensive cities in America. We share an apartment with 2 roommates just to make the numbers work. Think about that. Someone doing what society told me to do, earning what most people call a great salary, is barely staying ahead. No luxury vacations, no new car, not even pretending we could buy property. We're comfortable, sure, but it's still survival. Surviving comfortably is still surviving. If someone in my shoes is just treading water, then the traditional American path isn't just hard. For most people my age, it's fundamentally broken. Here's what finally clicked and why I'm making this video. We don't have to keep playing a game that was rigged against us. We can switch games, and Gen Z might be the first generation actually positioned to do that. Now, I know what you're thinking. Here comes the work harder, start a side hustle speech. That's not this. I'm talking about looking at the numbers, facing reality, and making choices based on how the world actually works now, not the story we were told growing up. So let me show you what's happening to our generation, then I'll walk through the alternative path I'm taking. Just the plain numbers and a real plan. The problem isn't just that the job market is tough, it's that it's systematically broken. Let's start with my girlfriend's experience because her story is more common than mine right now. She did everything right, earned the degree, built the resume, learned the skills. Then she graduated right as companies started massive layoffs, hiring froze, and AI started chewing through entry-level roles that used to be the stepping stones to mid-level careers. Hundreds of applications, constant tweaks, rejections, or worse, ghosted. She's working jobs she's wildly overqualified for just to cover bills while she keeps applying. And none of this is her fault. This is what happens when a whole generation steps into a different economy. Economists have shown that graduating into a weak labor market creates a wage penalty that can last years. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime earnings gone, just because you graduated in the wrong year. You're not starting from the same baseline. You're starting behind. I'm not going to wallow in doom because there is one upside. It's forcing us to build skills stable employment never teaches. Diversifying income, adapting fast, being self-reliant, creating value outside one employer. Those are the exact muscles you need when you're building an exit strategy instead of hoping the old path suddenly starts working again. The job market being terrible is unintentionally training us for independence. I'm not saying it's good, I'm saying we can still squeeze value out of a bad situation. Let's talk college. Tuition since the early 2000s? Way up. Entry-level salaries after inflation? Basically flat. You're paying far more for the same earning power and usually loading up on debt to do it. The average balance is tens of thousands. 6 figures isn't rare. So you buy the same degree that leads to the same job, except now you start deep in the hole before your first paycheck. And that paycheck is worth less in real terms than it was 25 years ago. If this were any other investment, we'd call it what it is, a terrible ROI. Are there ways around it? Community college first. Working through school, sure, but most of us were sold a different fairy tale. Go to a good school, the job will come, you'll pay it off. Eventually, now looks like a decade or more of payments and the jobs often aren't there. That's why Gen Z is finally asking about ROI. Is a $100,000 to $200,000 degree worth it if a cheaper path lands you the same role? We're learning to question defaults. That habit will save us later. Here's something I didn't fully grasp. The American healthcare system isn't designed to keep you healthy, it's designed to keep you employed. Employer coverage is insanely expensive, and that's before deductibles. Medical debt wrecks people in the wealthiest country on earth. This is a trap. You need employer-sponsored insurance, which means you're chained to jobs even when they're toxic or underpaying. Leaving means paying a ton on the marketplace with worse deductibles or gambling with your health. I can't take that risk. I have Crohn's disease. My medication costs about $12,000 a month without insurance. Thankfully, I'm covered right now, but you get the idea. This setup suffocates entrepreneurship. It makes try something new feel dangerous. The luxury of having kids. Our population is slipping because having a child is turning into a luxury. My girlfriend and I have talked about the future. I never really wanted kids. She does, but the math? Childcare can run up to $30,000 per year per kid. 2 kids? That's $60,000 after tax. In a lot of families, one parent basically works just to pay daycare. The US guarantees 0 weeks of paid parental leave. Plenty of developed countries guarantee months. Gen Z is delaying or opting out, and many are thinking about moving abroad to raise a family somewhere that actually supports families. Car dependency. The $12,000 tax. The average car payment is high. Add insurance, fuel, and maintenance, and you're easily over $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year for something that loses value. And in most US cities, that's not optional. Public transit is spotty. Biking isn't always safe. You're basically forced to spend 5 figures a year just to exist. Other countries solved this decades ago with transit, biking, and walkability. We built around cars, and we're paying for it. Side hustle survival mode. About a third of workers are in the gig economy. No benefits, no PTO, no retirement match, no safety net. Algorithms can change and erase income overnight. Yes, it teaches you how to earn outside traditional structures. Useful. But the Instagram version where everyone makes $20,000 a month is not normal. Most make small amounts. It's a symptom of weak protections. If we're stuck with it, let's at least use it to build skills and optionality. Social security. The pyramid problem. 6.2% of every paycheck goes to Social Security. I'm paying close to $8,000 a year into a fund with future shortfalls. We're told to save for our own retirement because we can't count on it, while still being taxed for it. I plan as if I'll never see a cent. Not bitterness, just realism. Quick pause, this isn't a complaint monologue. I know earning 6 figures at 24 is rare. A year ago, I made $40,000. The year before, $30,000. A lot of people my age make $40,000 to $50,000. My girlfriend's reality, degree in hand, awful market, minimum wage jobs while applying non-stop, is the norm. Being in a relatively privileged spot actually makes the view clearer. If I look at the system and think, this barely works, what does it look like for median earners? The truth? It doesn't. The traditional path is broken for almost everyone. People with more money can just pretend it works for longer. The alternative path. The answer isn't to grind harder inside a system built for a different era. It's to switch games, to one where we actually have an edge. What if we use the one advantage we do have, earning in US dollars, and move to places where the cost of living is dramatically lower while quality of life is equal or better? Portugal, Vietnam, Thailand, Colombia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, places where $1,200 to $1,500 a month can buy a lifestyle better than many US cities. At $2,500 a month, $30,000 a year, the 4% rule says you'd need roughly $750,000 invested to sustain that indefinitely. And in many of those places, you get better transit, cheaper childcare, and far more affordable healthcare. This isn't backpacking forever, it's building a real life in a modern country. Portugal has digital nomad visas. Thailand and Vietnam have long-term options, solid infrastructure, and fast internet. Healthcare is actually affordable, transit works, ride-hailing is cheap, childcare can be 70 to 80% less, expat communities are thriving, you get modern amenities at a fraction of the cost. I unpacked this in my last video, the real numbers and how far $2,500 per month goes. If you've got a remote-friendly skill, you could do this as early as next year. Previous generations didn't have this at scale. We're the first with the tech and the pressure to make it practical. That's my exit strategy. If this resonates, strategically, not emotionally, here's how to set yourself up. 1. Build remote-first skills. Coding, digital marketing, writing, design, work that travels with you. 2. Optimize your finances now. Live below your means, avoid high-interest debt, invest consistently. The difference between investing 20% versus 50% in your 20s can be the difference between freedom at 35 versus 65. 3. Research countries seriously. Join expat communities, learn visa rules, costs, culture, language, talk to people who've done it. 4th, test before committing. Take a trip, work remotely for a few weeks, see if the lifestyle fits. I'm spending 3 weeks next February as a first test, then iterating. 5. Invest aggressively. I'm aiming for 30 to 40% of my income invested monthly. Sounds intense, but the math is simple. Front load freedom. We are not losing, we are simply playing a different game. Gen Z is being priced out of the traditional American lifestyle. That's the data, but that doesn't mean we're losing. We're opting out of a game that no longer makes sense and choosing one that does. We don't have to stay in one city for 40 years. We don't have to buy overpriced houses. We don't have to accept paying thousands a year for healthcare that doesn't help until a giant deductible and might still deny claims. The traditional path is broken, but reality doesn't have to be limiting if you're willing to think strategically about alternatives that didn't exist 20 years ago. In 20 years, Gen Z might look back and realize that being priced out of the old system forced us to build something better. Not because we're special, because we had no choice but to think differently. If this gave you value, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.